Hello and welcome to another video about how to be a little bit better of a professional when we're in the outdoors. And so today I'm talking about TEC plans. And so with this we're looking at time, energy, the climate, and this is our control plan. This is all part of that planning stage before we hit the happy trails. So we want to make sure as an outdoor leader, as a professional, that we kind of know where we're going and kind of know about how to answer those questions. Because how many times have we been asked, how much farther is it? How much longer until we get there? Well, this can help us with some of those questions. And so with our TEC plan, we want to make sure that we recognize that these are just going to be estimates. We're not going to be actually predicting what will be reality, but it's a tool for us. And so when we are doing this, know that we do need to be flexible when we actually do get out there. But we're going to estimate our time of travel. We're going to estimate how much energy it's going to take. So, because there's a difference between the actual distance and the energy distance that we have. And then we also want to account for the climate, of what's going on. Things can change. When you're in a big thunderstorm, it's going to take you a lot longer to get from point A to point B than if it's, a nice sunny, perfect bluebird day and all those butterflies and birds and bees are doing their thing, and, the black bear is giving you a nice wave as you continue on, and, these just kind of help us with it. So let's kind of go over a few things that we want to consider when we're going to make our TEC plan. So if we look down here, we have a few terms. We have our guideposts, and with our guideposts we have our handrails, our checkpoints and points of interest, and our backstop. And so in one of my books it kind of has a nice little diagram of these. And so let's look at one of our backcountry classroom diagrams. So in the second edition, here is one of their diagrams that they have. We have our checkpoints, things that we know that we're going to come across along the way that kind of indicate we're on the right path. And then we have our handrails. These are things that while we're going along, we want to make sure that we continue along with it. This could be rivers, creeks, ridge lines, different things like that. And then our backstop, this is going to be telling us, whoa, stop. If you go any farther, you've gone too far. So those are good things to look at. And you could kind of tell on a map quite a bit about what these are. And also, if you are planning ahead and you scout out the trip, these will definitely become more prevalent. And so, this is from the second edition of the Backroom Classroom. I use this one quite a bit. As you could see, it's been used once or twice. I still have my original backcountry classroom that I've had for years. And then I've also kept my journal from some of my WEA experiences. And so this also helps me along. And so kind of going back here, again, we have those handrails, following an extreme, a river, a ridge line, our checkpoints being, we come across different intersections with other trails, different waterfalls. All of a sudden we know that there's going to be a cliff face as we get to a certain place, or it gets really steep. These are going to indicate, okay, I need to do something. Do I continue on? Do I need to turn? And then of course there's those backstops. I get to the top of the mountain. That might be a backstop. If you are going up, 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 you shouldn't automatically be like down, 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 down if that's your destination. That could be your backstop. Or all of a sudden you come to that vergence of two rivers, and you know that you're going to be camping there. That could be your backstop as well. But it's going to be a point to where if you go past this, you've gone too far. Now, these are things to kind of help you along the way. Now, how are we going to estimate how all this is going to happen? So I have a few things up here. Generally, when you are hiking or backpacking with a group, you have some good weight on your back. The group itself is going to be going at 1 mile for 30 minutes or 2 miles an hour. A lot of people are like, oh, I hike a lot faster than that. Well, yeah, you probably do. As an individual or, as two people, you could hike a lot faster. But once you put more people together, you put more weight on your back, this ends up being what happens on the trail. Now, if you are going off trail, it may even decrease to where you are at 1 mile an hour. So if you're bushwhacking, that could be a possibility. Again, the more that you know about your groups and the paces and the experience of them, this may need to adjust, but this is one of those estimates. For most groups on trail, 1 mile is going to be about 30 minutes. Now, when we start getting to elevation change, this is going to kind of change everything, right? So generally, between the elevations of 7,000 to 11,000 feet, they're usually kind of estimating for every 1,000 feet that you go up is going to be an additional 1.5 hours of time. So if you have been going, 5 miles, so 2.5 hours, walking distance on flat terrain, but then you've added 1,000 feet elevation. So that 2.5 plus 1.5, we are now up to 4 hours of traveling. So we kind of think of that. And so going uphill adds a lot of time. But believe it or not, going downhill also adds time. So if you decrease your elevation of 1,000 feet, that's about an additional 30 minutes. This is a lot of wear and tear on our bodies. And so these elevation gains and decreases, these are part of those energy miles that we're going through. So so for every mile, it's about 30 minutes, but we have to add time for this. Now, I haven't really seen a whole lot of data on what if you're below that 7,000 feet. I'm in Arkansas right now. We don't have anything over 7,000 feet. Does this hold true? Well, it kind of does a lot of times, because with the heat and humidity in Arkansas, that's going to be something that adds a little bit of time. So if you're gaining 1,000 feet, you're breathing in hot, moist air. It's just draining the energy from you. You are adding time to that. So I kind of just still use this as a general rule, even though I've seen in literature this is what they're estimating for 7,000 to 11,000. But I've used it a lot even below that, and it seems to hold pretty true. And you might be wondering, well, how do you know how many feet you're gaining? Well, sometimes you could count where the benchmarks are, where they've already made that measurement, but then you could also count the contour lines on a topographical map and kind of build it up from there. And this just kind of takes a little bit of map interpretation skills that you may need to develop over time. While this lesson, we are dealing with maps and we're dealing with this, I'm not going to bog down too much on the interpretations of how to read a map in general. You may want to look that up for yourself to build those skills. So we have been estimating the distance for our time. We're estimating the energy with our energy miles. We're taking into factor of the climate being, weather coming in, or just the general climate. Arkansas, hot and humid for most of what people are using, aka the summer, as their recreation time. Now, other things that will help you in your TEC plan, we want to make sure that we know the area. And this may come from reading guidebooks, this may be scouting out the area, and asking people who have been there several times before, what's going on? You get that data. That's really good. But also, when we're making our TEC plans, we want to be aware that we need to be flexible. Flexibility is really important. So we're making this plan, but depending on the group dynamics, expedition behavior, we may need to realize that we might not make it in the estimated time that you're like, we're leaving at this time, we're arriving at this time. So that's something that we want to really keep in mind because every group is different. And with it, we always want to be aware of our judgment and decision making while we're out there. And with this, we're building that. So while we're on the trail, we have our TEC plan, we're building upon our experiences, and this all keeps accumulating into our judgment. We're testing our decision-making skills constantly with this. So we've made a plan. How are we doing on that plan? Do we need to adapt that plan? What will be best for our group at this time? So these all come together. It's amazing that way. So TEC plans, not the best part of what people are driven to when they're going to the outdoors, but this will help you a lot. So let's kind of look at some of this on a practical side. So when we come over here, I've made some notes. So we're going to do a little exercise. We want to make sure that we have a map. So here I actually have two different examples of maps. We want to make sure that we have a compass. This definitely helps if we're having to revise our plan on the trail. You definitely want that compass to kind of help us out. And a piece of string. Always when I'm carrying my compass, I always have a string tied to it. And that will help us figure out the distance on a map. And of course, our notes and anything that we have, I always have my notebook with me that I just keep on adding to over time of different skill sets. And of course, a pen will also help. I also use some worksheets. And so here is one to where I could use it for multiple days. Notice that it's divided up day 1, day 2, day 3. But if you're having a complicated route, you may even want to split it up to where it's section 1, section 2, section 3, because you may have to do several sections all in one day. And you'll want to list where are you beginning, where are you ending. We are marking what our mileage is going to be, so we're estimating that. And don't always trust the guidebooks. Sometimes those guidebooks don't have it right, because sometimes the trail even changes over time with trail maintenance. Total elevation gained, total elevation lost, and then you can estimate your time without any breaks there, so just pure travel time. And then from here, we have our estimated break time and our estimated meal time. And then from there, we could calculate our total time there. So then I'll mark what time are we starting, what time should we expect to get there. And I'm also going to make notes of the handrails, the point of interest, and my backstop. So I have those with me on the trail. So coming back here, I'm going to select a trail. So I'm doing some research ahead of that. I shouldn't just show up at a random trailhead. I'm going to pick one and kind of make my plan off of it. I'm going to estimate the time. I'm going to calculate the elevation change, the plus and the minus. I'm going to bring all that to my worksheet, and then I'm going to estimate the breaks and meal time. All right, so let's look here of what maps I have. I am a big proponent of getting a USGS quadrangle. Now, for this area, I have found that this map was last revised, as you can see here, in 1973. We've had a few minutes since then. And so when I was going through it, it was listing one of my trails. It wasn't listing all of my trails that I was going on. So this isn't actually going to be the best map, even though I love how it is. I love the detail that it puts into the contours of the elevation change, marking all the rivers and all that. It's great, but it's missing some of my trail. And so I may need to get supplemental maps for this. And of course, you know, your guidebooks may have them, but those guidebooks usually don't have a really good topographical map with all those contours. And so I've come here. This is a more commercially made one, and I'm able to look at what details it has. You know, what are the contour intervals for this? You know, for each of those brown squiggly lines, it's 50 feet. You know, I could also see how much distance is for a unit of measurement that's on here. And I also could kind of see the declination. And so your map, a good map, should have all of this. So my choice for my trail here, I'm going to start here on Shores Lake. I'm going to follow this blue and white line. This is going to be one of the trails because that white and kind of green line with some of those loops, those are forest roads. So I'm going to stay on the blue and white. I'm going to follow that up here on the White Rock Creek. I'm going to go past a wonderful waterfall. I'm going to continue on up, and it actually intersects partly with the Ozark Highland Trail, which is that red and white. I'm going to make my way up to White Rock Mountain, and it has a beautiful, beautiful vistas there because it has wonderful cliff lines. So here in Arkansas, finding a vista is pretty awesome. You can see for miles and miles, just like the Who used to sing about. And so that's going to be my day one. And then day two would be continuing short while on this Ozark Highland Trail, but then I'm going to take that first trail going downhill and follow that all the way back down to Shores Lake, completing that loop. And so this is going to be my route. So how do I estimate the distance? So I was reading in several trail books, and it's about 6 miles going up for that first day. And so for me to do that, I kind of want to double check, make sure the authors were right. I'm going to take my string and I'm going to undo it to where it's nice and loose. And from here, I can take it and I can just measure out how much distance, and I'm going to keep on keeping my string taut and trace it along the map. And I did this earlier, and I came up with 5.5 miles, because once I traced it here, then I took it back over here to my distance marker and pasted out, and it came up to be 5.5, which, you know, a map may not be able to give you all the detail for this. And plus, this map that I have here, it's showing this area in a smaller area than when I was over here and going along the US GS quadrangle. So that may be that this map isn't quite detailed enough to get every little nook and cranny of the string going. So with that, I'm going to be a little bit conservative, and I'm going to kind of add some of my own math here. So if I'm saying that it's 5.5 to 6 miles, I'll go ahead and estimate that as the 6 miles. So for every mile, you're adding 30 minutes. So that's going to be 3 hours. Now from here, I'm also going to estimate my elevation. And so your guidebooks may have this on there as well, but I may need to kind of look at it in greater detail. So down here, I could kind of look and be like, okay, so this dark line that's right here, I could trace that, that's 750 feet in elevation. But my trailhead is actually below that by one squiggly line. Remember, my intervals are going to be 50 feet, so I'm go estimate I'm starting about 700 feet. And then from there, I'm kind of noticing from this, because I'm going up a creek, up a river, and I'm going to be going up, 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 up. So I don't really have much downhill for this first day. And now when I get all the way up here, I need to find out, okay, how far am I going up? So my dark line right here is 2,000 feet. And then I'm going to be 2 squiggly lines above that, maybe even 3 squiggly lines. And so I'm looking at about 2,100 feet of where I'm going. And so from there, I can kind of do my math. So I had 700 to 2,100, so that's about 1,400. Maybe, given that these maps, they're pretty tiny, it might even go up to 1,500. And so if every 1,000 feet is an hour and a half, and then maybe, half of one of those, I'm actually looking at 2 to 2 hours and 50 minutes just for elevation gain for my energy miles. And from there, I'm just going to go ahead and make it more conservative and just say 5 hours and 15 minutes of travel. So that's total hiking time without the breaks. So that's my travel time. Now from here, for breaks. Breaks are very, very interesting because when I'm looking at my breaks, I want to kind of calculate that about for every 30 minutes, I need to probably take a break for the group. And this is all based on, what they would say would be an average group or something along those lines. So if you're having like really, really beginners, you may need to estimate a little bit different. If you have a group that's well cohesive, they've done lots of stuff together, they're all very experienced, you're going to estimate this differently. And so for every 30 minutes, I'm going to take at least one break. If it is a break that is less than 10 minutes, this is going to be a packs on break. These are perfect for those water breaks. You keep your packs on, people kind of just catch their breath. The whole entire group gets a break. Don't have it to where the first few people get a break, and then when that last person gets there, everyone starts hiking again. That's not a break. Everyone needs to stop. We want to have good expedition behavior for this. And so packs on breaks, 5 to 10 minutes. If it's going to be more than that, let's say like 20 minutes plus, we need to take our packs off. We need to allow our legs to really get that rest and get that lactic acid kind of flowing out. And so we're going to need to do that every once in a while. So I make that again, depending on your group dynamics, their experience and the different types of terrain, I'm probably going to have that as every second, or every third break. And so from here, I came here and I said, well, for this amount of time, we'll probably have 7 5 to 10 minute breaks, and then I'll probably have 2 20-minute breaks in there. But we're hiking during the day. This is a long day, so I'm probably going to anticipate at least 1 meal time, and this is going to be at least 30 minutes. And I went ahead and estimated it as 45 minutes. So as you can see here, for my 5 to 7 or 5 to 10 minute breaks, I went ahead and estimated it as 60 minutes, and then for the 20-minute breaks, there's 2 of them, so 40 minutes. And then I just start adding those up. So 5 hours and 15 minutes plus 60 minutes plus 40 minutes plus 45 minutes. That's 7 hours and 40 minutes for my total travel. So it's going to be the breaks, everything included. And if I start at 9 a.m., I'm going to be ending at 4:40 p.m. Now, with here, I went ahead and also wrote down where are my handrails, where are my points of interest, where are my backstops. So coming back here to the map, I know that one of my handrails is this trail kind of goes along a valley with the Hurricane Creek. But then after I pass one point of interest, the road, I'll continue on. I'll pass another point of interest, an intermittent stream called Bliss Spring Hollow. And then from there, there's going to be actually a pretty big creek, the White Rock Creek. And that's where the trail gets close to the creek and it veers off from the other one. And I continue up that, and that's going to be my next handrail, is that White Rock Creek. And after going on it a couple of times, I know that it crosses the creek a couple of times, especially when we get up here to the waterfall. I actually have to cross it underneath the waterfall and on top of the waterfall. And there's a kind of a camping area there. It's okay. From personal experience, I know there's lots of mosquitoes along that area. But then I'm going to continue up there. My handrail is still that creek, but then it's going to start getting steep. I'm going to start going up several of those contour lines to where I get on top of this ridge line. And then from there, I'm going to pass another point of interest, a road. Trust me, when you're crossing a road, you usually notice it. You want to be careful, look both ways. And then shortly after that, I'll come up to an intersection. That's going to be another point of interest. And this one, from experience, I know is well marked because it's going to talk about the Ozark Highland Trail, which is a pretty neat trail system here in Arkansas. And then I'll also come to a second intersection, and this is going to be right below the cliff face right here. And from there, that could take me right up to the campgrounds. And it has several amenities up there. And so I definitely don't want to miss those if that's my stop. So that's going to be my first day. And so my backstop is going to be this second intersection once I've gotten to the Ozark Highland Trail. And then from there, I definitely don't want to start on the downhill. The downhill would mean that I've gone too far at this point. And so that is my TEC plan right here. If you have any questions, definitely come and see me, during my office hours. If you're one of my students, you may even be able to contact me with any of the contact information that is provided on my website. So hope that this helps you out on developing your TEC plan, and I hope that this helps you on your next adventure.